Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dottie. If you're new here, thank you so much for coming on here. And if you're not, welcome back. Welcome to a new series called Things I Wish I Knew About Marriage. And essentially, I'm bringing together some of my amazing aunties to come and talk about their experiences, their journey to marriage, things they wish they knew beforehand, things they wish people told them about marriage, their expectations versus reality. So yes, stay tuned, make sure you like, share, comment, and yes, I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, my name's Jobi. Everyone calls me Jobi, and I'm a contractor. I was previously married for about 4 years.
My name is Aderonke Odejide. I've been married for over 10 years, together with my manses for 15 years.
Friendship, dependability, and love.
Companionship, because you're going to get old, so you need a companion. Partnership, which is a different word to companionship. And yeah, love, I'd say.
Okay, so like I said, we're going to be speaking about things that you wish, not I wish, because I'm not married, nowhere near.
Neither am I.
All right. Things that you wish you knew before you got married. Some of the things that you wish people had said to you before you walked down the aisle. Things that you weren't expecting, that you wish you were better prepared for. We want to talk about all of those stuff so that those of us that are venturing into that season are better prepared. Our marriages are sustained in a great way. So yeah, my first question to you, if you're happy to share, is we just want to know a bit of your love story. So a bit of context into how you met the person that you were with or are with now. So
do you want to go first?
Okay, I'll take the floor. I met my ex through a family friend, and it was a whirlwind. He was a year older than myself, a student at the time. And I found out after the fact that it was a matchmake. I didn't know until after the fact.
Sorry, what?
It was a matchmake.
Oh.
Yeah, so a family member actually they colluded and brought us together. So I met him and we had great chemistry. The first day I met him, I was coming to London, so I decided to drive him to London as he was coming back to London because he lived in London, I lived in Luton at the time. And it was almost like I've known him for all my life, unfortunately. But yeah, so that was how it was. We clicked, and then 4 months later I was married. So it happened very quickly in my case. As quickly as I came in, I came out. But yeah.
Let's talk about that.
I've been married now 10 years. I met my husband. Well, I've known my husband since I was 12, but I didn't know for the longest time that he was in love with me for most of that time. But we started dating officially when I was 28 or 29, after I'd broken up an engagement from before. And I remember this bit. I remember I prayed that I wanted to meet someone that I already knew because I couldn't go through that whole dating thing anymore. I just prayed it, and that's just how it happened. And then it was after we started dating that I realized that, because there's something like, oh, you finally said yes. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, I've asked you out before, but you never answered. So I found some old letter I never opened where he had asked me out, but I didn't open the letter. And so we dated, and I think we dated for 5 years, then we got married. We got 2 kids now, so there wasn't like a romantic proposal or anything either, which I keep complaining about. But yeah, it was kind of like a conversation. He had to convince me to get married because I didn't want to get married. So yeah, 10 years down the line, it's still going okay.
Praise God. Okay, so what were some of the expectations you had about marriage?
None.
None?
None.
Okay.
I think my experience of marriage, my parents' marriage, my dad's in total got 3 wives. My mum is late, so that was his first wife, and I didn't witness any good thing out of it. The marriage that I recall with him and my stepmom wasn't that great, so I never was interested in getting married. I knew I wanted kids, but I had no interest in getting married. And my husband's parents' marriage wasn't great either, because I know there was like ups and downs, as there are in most marriages. And I remember saying to him, why should we even bother getting married? And he said something like, just because we didn't have role model marriages of our parents doesn't mean we can't create one for ourselves. So it's kind of like we kind of got into it on the premise that we were going to create our own template for us. We're not following anybody's stereotype of how a marriage should be or whatever. So I'd say we're winging it, and 10 years down the line, we're still winging it. But that's it, really. So I didn't have any advice. I probably was given some that I didn't take because I refused to have a hen do.
Okay.
I didn't want one. I mean, we went away, but, I just didn't want any of the tips because I didn't want to get married. I just wanted kids. I didn't want to get married. Okay. So I had no whatever.
No expectations. Okay,
No.
fair enough. How about you, AJ? Sorry, just a quick disclaimer. I'm going to refer to her as AJ in this video, which stands for Auntie Joy, but she doesn't believe that she's an auntie. So, yeah, so she's AJ.
I knew it was going to be work.
You did?
I was prepared. I prepared my mind for work.
What made you... Sorry, I shouldn't be asking the questions.
No, it's good. I mean, I just never thought of anything. My life hasn't been easy. I just never saw anything that was good, that was going to come easy. And I felt my marriage was going to be the same. If I want it to be good, I've got to work at it. So I went in with a work frame of mind, basically, like I've got to roll my sleeves. I'm saying that also because there was an economic disadvantage, as well as immigration one.
Mm.
So I knew that because he had recently migrated to the UK as a student, and I'm, being a citizen here, it was unequal in that aspect. So I knew that I would have to kind of prop him up. So, but I didn't mind it because genuinely I was in love, and I thought this is what a wife does: roll his sleeve up, and you do what you can to get him to where he needs to get to. I pushed and pushed and pushed, and unfortunately, I am where I am. But I think in hindsight, it's just reminded me that I am a formidable person.
Yeah.
And I still pray and hope to meet someone. But if I don't, the energy that I gave to my partner, I'm giving to my relationships in the sense of friendships, sisterhoods, my siblings, and even to myself. So I'm not at a loss being single.
Not at all. So there was no fairy tale expectation for... Like, there was no element of this is going to be fun and exciting.
No, I mean, I enjoyed it for... See, there's a thing about me. I'm the kind of person that I take pleasure in work. So that's probably another thing about me. It was exciting in the fact that somebody had chosen me and wanted to spend the rest of their life with me.
That's the other way around, though.
And
no?
Coming I had, again, unpacking here, abandonment issues. My dad left when I was 4. And I think when the role model of that leaves, the next person that is a role model for you, or somebody that is there to provide and protect is your spouse, and somebody says, I'm willing to take on that position, you feel like this person is giving you some level of identity and validity. Yeah. Probably the wrong thing to have thought at then, but I didn't realize I was dealing with all this trauma, insecurities and stuff like that. I just felt this guy loved me as opposed to he saw an opportunity to do certain things.
I had this... I don't remember why my dad gave me the advice, but I remember from when I was maybe 17, he said something along the lines of, never be a liability to any man. And I know he was speaking based on his current marriage to my stepmom, like, don't be a liability to any man. Earn your own money, blah, blah, blah. And then another time he randomly said to me, there's a reason why the man proposes to the woman. So you're choosing him, not the other way around. So there's a reason why they get on one knee and they say, will you be my wife? I don't know why women go, ah! You can say no, or you can say, I'll think about it, which is what I said the first. I said, I'll think about it.
Yeah, he proposed.
And I had to do not PowerPoint, but I had to do pros and cons in my head. Yeah. And I remember I said to him, if you're 70% what I need, then I'll say yes. So on the days when he's doing my head in, I literally say out loud, 70-30, 70-30. And he knows what that means. And in terms of expectation, I did have one. I thought, okay, like how you were saying about work, I've worked all this time. Finally, someone's going to come and take care of me, honestly. Because one of my fantasy job is to be a full-time housewife. As in, yeah, all you independent ladies out there. But that's my personal thing, because I've been working for so long. I was like, finally, somebody's going to take care of me. And then that's not what happened.
Okay.
So, but that was the only expectation I had.
So that brings me nicely onto shocks and surprises. But I want to touch on what you said about you were expecting like to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Or, so then what were some of the shocks in marriage that came?
So I am naturally the kind of person that if you make me a promise, I'm an elephant in many ways. I will remember. I will remember what you were wearing, if it was raining outside, if the news was, I will remember exactly what you were doing when you made me that promise. So I understand that men have to woo women or whatever. Woo is an old word, but it means, what do people call it? Courting. Did they say courting? Anyway, wooing, look it up. So I was wooed and everything. So every single promise you made me, romance,
pursue, no?
Chirped, pursued.
That's a chirps.
Did they still say chirps? No. We
I don't really think so, unless you correct me if I'm wrong.
Toasting for the oldies.
Right.
Anyway, so when he wooed me, all the promises he made, I remember every single one of them. And then we get married, and then I'm like, oh. No, but the thing is, actually, before we got married, I broke up with him for 4 days. I went to South Africa, because that's where he lived, for 3 months, unpaid sabbatical, to decide if I want to marry this guy. The first day I get there, we finish having dinner. I'm in the kitchen, like I wasn't washing up. I ain't washing up. I was kind of like putting my plates away. I just heard the front door slam. So I looked out. So I see him walking down the corridor. So I thought maybe he's going to the bin or something, like, because it's like a block of flats. And then I went, excuse me, where are you going? He goes, oh, I forgot someone was in the house. That was day 1 of 3 months. So already I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. But then communication for me was a big problem. So the communication that we used to do on MSN Messenger, I sound so old, MSN Messenger, shut up, regularly, that would spend 4 or 5 hours a day chatting. In South Africa, nothing. We're in the same room, nothing. And then every time I tried to bring up the communication thing, he would say something along the lines of, well, I found my wife. I don't see why I have to do any more work. Basically, he'd finished all the work he was supposed to do, and he didn't need to do anymore. I said, no, we haven't even sat down to ascertain what kind of family do we want, what kind of dynamic do we want, all these important things, because let me remind you, I'm not desperate to get married. I just broke up an engagement and of a guy that fit everything everybody wants. He was rich, he was good looking, he came from a reputable family, blah, blah, blah. But I broke up with him because I kept having the same recurring dream that I killed him. And I was very happy to go to jail because he was emotionally abusive.
Oh, okay, that's not funny.
And he was also a drug addict.
Okay.
He was addicted to codeine because he was shot just before I met him. Long story. Anyway.
Aderonke, slow down.
So I was very particular about what I wanted in a husband. And my backup was a sperm bank because I knew I wanted 3 kids. So I was like, do you know what? This husband life is not by force, So I was like, we need to sit down and communicate because there's things I need in a man or in my partner before I enter. I told you I'm not trying to get married. You convinced me to marry. I've not said yes yet. So let's work this out. But so that whole 3 months, that kept happening. I'm in South Africa. I don't know anyway. I can't just get in my car and go away. So I had to just bide my time and drink my wine and stay. Do you see? So when I came back, I think the last week I kept saying, we need to talk. I came back. I remember I called him. I was at work. I called him and I said, we really need to talk because I can't tell you yes or no to marrying you unless we've had communication and we've set this stuff down in stone because I don't want us to get married. It's like, oh, you didn't say anything. I'm saying it now. And it's like, all this talking, you want to talk. This is all this Oyibo stuff you do. Blah, blah, blah. I said, wait, so all the talking we're doing on MSN Messenger, what was that one? He goes, hey, we're just talking. I found my wife. I don't feel like I have to do anything else. I went, okay, in that case, so I'm very happy for you and this your future wife. I wish you all the best. Have a nice life. And I put the phone down. And then he kept calling me. I said, what? He said, okay, sorry. I said, sorry for what? Hey, Jobi, you just want to hear sorry. I said, no. Until you know exactly why I'm angry, you can't just, even till now, my husband doesn't say sorry without knowing exactly what he's saying sorry for. Don't just say sorry because that's what I want to hear. So I said, I don't know about all the other chicks you've been with, but I'm very different. I know the kind of life I want. I know the kind of marriages I've seen, and I know I don't want that life. I did not come to you saying I was looking for a husband. I'm not one of them desperate chicks. And already I'm breaking so many conventions according to my dad, because my husband's Christian. I was from a Muslim house. I couldn't marry him because of religion, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, my dad still calls my husband the man I live with, not my husband. He doesn't recognize him as my husband. So I was like, okay, let's talk. I didn't want to talk. So I broke up with him for 4 days. It took him 4 days to kind of rehash in his mind all the different times I tried to talk to him. And when he figured out everything and he told me on the phone, and I accepted his apology, I said, type everything up in an email and send it to me. Because sometime down the line in this marriage, if something happens, I'm going to hold that up and say, this is our agreement before I married you. So if this is not, thankfully 10 years down, I haven't needed to even look up that email, but I've got it. Like, this is the promise you've made me. Exactly, because, I can't, But yeah, so for me, that had to be, and I remember when I broke up with him, it was hard, but I had to do it because I knew the kind of life I wanted. I wasn't going to settle.
So what would be your roundup in terms of your expectation and then the shock that you got in marriage from what you just said?
Because I didn't have many expectations, I can't really count any shocks as such, because I believe in any relationship, it doesn't matter if you're married or just friendship, whatever, you can talk through anything. But the other and you can talk like normal human beings. I don't like being shouted at. When we were dating and he shouted at me once, I did not speak to him for like 8 hours because I'm like, don't shout at me. Even my dad doesn't shout at me. Don't shout at me. We can talk like this. And I still said to someone on the weekend, like, as long as you're a human being and you speak English, we can communicate and address our issues. So for me, that talking is a very, and the only shocking thing was the fact that you as women, we think a lot more. We're more emotional. We consider other people a lot, and it's taken me years to get to the point where I put myself first now. So in the list of important people in my household, I'm number one.
100%.
And then my 9-month-old, then my 6-year-old, then at some point my husband. Sometimes not even on the top 10. But do you know what I mean? Like, that's because they only think of them. So yeah, sometimes you be flatmates. Sometimes you're lovers. Sometimes you're friends. So it kind of is very different. So, and don't try to model marriage on anybody, or not your parents, not anybody. And a validating comment that I heard recently was when Michelle Obama said she could not stand Barack for 10 years, like a 10-year stretch. I'm thinking, a whole Barack that everybody puts as the epitome of the black man. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, well, if she can have issues with it for 10 whole years, then it's okay then. So you just have to know what you want for yourself and what you won't take. Like, have your boundaries. What are you going to accept? What are you not going to accept? What are you going to compromise on? And these are conversations you need to have before. Once the woman tends to know if they can marry a man before a man knows that that woman is good for them and they should marry them. So you as a woman should know what you want and what you will settle for or not settle for before the man even says he wants to propose to you or not. I remember breaking up with somebody and he goes to me, why are we breaking? I said, nothing, I just know I can't marry. He goes, but what if I wanted to marry? I said, no, I couldn't marry you because you don't fit what I want. But there was nothing wrong. We didn't fight. There was nothing. Just after 2 years, I break up relationships if there's nothing to... If I don't see a future with you, why am I wasting my time?
I think for me, what the shock was culture. I think people take for granted. I'm Nigerian by heritage, let me put it that way. I've raised all my life in the UK, but I've got that Nigerian factor. My husband was born and bred in Nigeria, and we were chalk and cheese, and I didn't know. I think because somebody can speak English and assimilate, you think that they have the same kind of mindset that you have towards life and marriage, and unfortunately, it was hell, if I'm honest. Not only from his part, but even dealing with his parents. I think there's this expectation that the culture has, especially on women, that we're supposed to just do without question. This is your man. And I didn't have any context because I never grew up in Nigeria. So there's an expectation that, I'm half Yoruba, half Benin. And there was an expectation because of that half of being Yoruba, I'm supposed to behave like a Yoruba woman.
What is that?
Just be submissive. I mean, one of the advices they said to me on my wedding day was, it's the woman that keeps the home. And it irked me This was my trad, by the way. And it irked me because I was like, it's two people, so why am I the one holding this accountability factor for this marriage to work? You know, like, it takes two. We're both saying yes, we're both saying I do. So why is the burden of whether this works or not left to me? He picked me, in a sense. Yes, I said yes, of which I didn't say yes initially, just same as your story. But it's almost as like there's this abandonment of accountability to the role the man has to play. And it's just, he's a man, you are his wife, you submit, and whatever your husband wants, you will do. Even down to sex.
I
And
think
that part was also interesting for me, because they were like, oh, if your husband wants sex, just give it to him even if you're tired. And I said, you people are jokers. I said, but do you guys give that same advice to the men? Because I've got a high sex drive. Hello?
I don't.
You know, so there's, and unfortunately it's women. That was one of the things I learned. It was women that perpetuate this mindset. I didn't even know myself.
So that's one thing you wish you knew before marriage as well.
100%. I didn't have real understanding. I got lost in church, and I'm going to be very honest now. I won't say I was pressured by church, but being a Christian made me stupid to a lot of things. I put up with a lot of things because you think you're being
Religious made you stupid, not being a Christian.
You're right. Being religious, because if you think about it, the church is kind of like a religion. They say follow it this way. Being a Christian is a relationship with.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
My Christianity made me stupid, and it was to the point that somebody said something to me. It's like, you bend and you don't have a breaking point, and I didn't realize that I was a pleaser to the nth degree, thinking I was walking by grace and being merciful, being kind. And the script that always used to come to me was, you know, be as gentle as a dove. And I used to always not pay attention to the second part, which is be as wise as a serpent. And it never clicked with me until recent times, you know. So I think I put up with a lot. Yes, I was prayerful. I prayed. You know, I fasted. I thought I was being the Proverbs 31 woman. This is the standard you've got to be. You know, she goes out, she makes cloth, her children speak good of her, her husband speaks, you know, there's a lot. If you look at what she actually does, it's a lot. So one thing, you know, not to be surprised on is that marriage is work, and unfortunately or fortunately,
Any relationship is work.
but I don't think people realize that it is. I think it's unfortunate. Disney has not helped. Let's just call it.
I don't watch Disney, so
Disney
I
has
don't know.
not helped in the whole princess mindset of things. It's not a reality. It is work. And marriage will bring out not only the best, but the worst part of you as well. So if you've got mental issues, that mental issue will arise.
It will
in your
be
marriage.
exacerbated,
If you have issues with your family members, it will come out in your marriage. Like anything, who you are will be magnified times 10 in your marriage. I'm not saying it can be dealt with before the marriage. Sometimes the marriage, it needs to take place for it to expose something. So it's a mirror. Marriage is a mirror about you more than your partner. Sometimes, you know, your partner's test you, they're doing this, they're irritating me. That's for you to work on.
That's a values thing.
Yeah, that's something that you need to work on yourself. It's not actually them. They're just put in the place to teach you patience.
Yep.
You know.
Yes, that's one. Patience
and forgiveness. And you know, one of the things that I dealt with was, unfortunately, the shock for me. I've never dealt with passive aggressive behavior until I met my ex. And he's the type of person, if he was not approving of anything, I like literally silent mode.
My husband tried that as well.
Don't exist, but he would still expect a meal, still expect sex, still expect everything I'm supposed to do as a wife, but no acknowledgement. I mean, the sex stopped at some point. We went 6 months without, and that was also a manipulation tactic because it was just to subdue me. And I remember in that time, I cried and I said to him, I don't want to cheat on you because you're now depriving me emotionally. You know, mentally, you're not talking to me, and you know he was proud about it to say I can carry this on to December as if it was a good thing.
Why?
To say, you can stand that. I think upbringing, and I think it's very, you know, one of the things you do need to delve into and observe. Women, listen. I'm talking to the women especially. Stop talking. Let a man show you who he is and listen. People like talking about themselves. You will learn. You will figure some things out. Be around them. Also, you know, how does he manage his own friendships? We spoke about this. How he manages his friendships is a good indication of how he's going to manage you. So if you see him as that passive aggressive person in his friendship group, more than likely he's going to be that to you. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So yeah, it's nuanced. It was great for what it was. I learned. Do you get me? So I'm not sad. So I'm not crying about it. You know, I learned a lot, not only about the institution. I learned about men. There's a lot of nuance back to, you know, what the shock was, culture and psychological.
Culture affected me a little bit as well because I came to this country when I was 16. I'm 43 now. You do the maths. I can't be asked. And so I remember I was at uni and I was told that I was only going to marry a white man. This is by my Nigerian friends because they said there's no Nigerian man or African man that could tame me.
I get that now.
I was like, what does that even mean? I'm not an animal. Why am I being tamed? And but again, communication, knowing your boundaries, knowing what you want, what you don't want. And I mean, women have come a long way since the whenever. So nowadays, you younger guys are free to do a lot of stuff before you get married. So like Joy said, know yourself well.
Travel, do that business, whatever you got in mind to do. And that doesn't mean that you can't have a relationship while you're doing these things.
Yeah, you can.
Be present as well. Don't overthink about the future. You know, I've learned because I suffered with anxiety, and I would say just be present, just enjoy what you've got for where it is right now.
Knowing, but not knowing.